Well, it's the time of the year to think about what are you getting your loved ones? Chocolate or maybe flowers? I'm here with the owner of the Hudson Flower Shop, Shelli. How's it going?
Going great.
Tell me, how did you get into the floral business?
Well, actually, I started in the floral business in high school. It was just an after-school job. I went into my local flower shop and started washing buckets. And then one day on Mother's Day weekend, they were really behind. And so they said, anyone that wants to get on the design table and help out, go ahead and try it. And so I made a basket arrangement of daisies, and the designers all told me it was horrible.
And that's okay.
And I put it in the cooler and someone bought it anyway. And then I thought, wow, I'm a designer.
Yes, and here you are. We have some arrangements here, and I always think it's fascinating, the behind the scenes efforts of what it takes to really get. So as the upcoming season comes up, let's first talk about that. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, what should consumers know?
Well, consumers should know that Valentine's Day especially, roses are expensive, and roses are expensive for a simple reason of supply and demand. Valentine's Day is a worldwide holiday. Sometimes we don't realize that, and the number one flowers to give throughout the world is a rose. So roses are in very high demand. The thing that you should really know is to be careful. There are inexpensive places to buy roses, but then there are roses that are inexpensive. Maybe because they were cut before they're mature, maybe because they've been cut for a long time, so they're a little older. So my suggestion is always to buy from your local reputable floral source, just so that you know that you're getting a great quality product. Another thing to know about this holiday is, even though roses are more expensive, most flowers in general are not more expensive. So there's lots of opportunities to experiment with things other than just roses. There's lots of varieties to choose from. And another thing to consider is we are now in tulip season. I know it doesn't seem like it with the 4 feet of snow that we have out there, but it is the Dutch tulip market right now. So we're cutting a lot of tulips. They're inexpensive. They bring a great sign of hope of spring to come. So they have a lot of great things going for them. So there's some really great alternatives if you work closely with someone who can give you some advice.
There's many different types of flowers, and myself personally, I walk in and I'm very overwhelmed. I'm like, what can I choose? I have no idea. Walk me through maybe some of these flowers that you have here.
Well, I can tell you here we have, of course, the roses. These are Pink Floyd hot pink roses. We have little pink spray roses. These here are a daisy chrysanthemum. So they're in the chrysanthemum family, which is good news because they're super long lasters, but they look like a daisy. This is one of America's favorite flowers. We have this pretty stalk, which has a fragrance like cloves. You can kind of smell that clovey fragrance. And then this here is a little bit of wax flower. Wax flower is often used in soap making. It has just a really clean fragrance, a clean property to it. And this greenery is called trachelium and a little salal.
Okay, so there's really a lot of textures here, a lot of different varieties.
You should never be overwhelmed by varieties. When you walk into a local store, their customer service staff is going to walk you right through what is your occasion, what are you looking for, here's some suggestions I can make, and these are things I can tell you about the specific flowers. So it's always an opportunity to learn a little bit more and maybe find a new favorite.
Now, if someone were wanting to make their own arrangement, how should they go about it?
Well, generally when we're talking about putting together arrangements, I usually my signature design is more of a radial design. So I usually talk to the girls a little bit as a starting point about anchoring your 4 corners and then setting your top. And then you fill in all those spaces in between. So make 1, 2, 3, 4, a square corner. And if you see that, here's your corners. Anchor your top and then fill in everything in the middle.
And if you didn't know how to make arrangement, that's a good tip. But if someone were to just wanting to give a bouquet of sorts.
Sure, you can bring home a bouquet. We sell lots of individual stems in different varieties. The girls will kind of walk you through the elements of your focal flower and your kind of supporting cast that goes along with it, along with some greenery. They'll give you some great tips when you get home. And of course, practice makes perfect. Just work on your designs as you go.
Then if you were to take it home, what are some tips and tricks to keep it alive for longer maybe?
Well, the big thing is whenever you take home cut flowers, the first thing I'm going to say is you have to handle those flowers just like you'd handle your own self or your baby. You can't leave them in the car when it's 20 degrees because they will freeze, or when it's 80 degrees, they'll cook. It's just too warm to be leaving them in your car. Don't think colder is better or warmer is better. You want to kind of keep them in that 50 to 70 degree range. Studies have shown that flowers that are held at that 50-degree point last substantially longer than flowers that are held at 70 degrees. And when I say substantially, we're talking by days. So, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. You want to make sure that once you get your flowers home, that you give them a fresh cut. If you think about it, when you cut your skin, if you leave that, you're going to get a scab or a seal over the top of that cut, right? Same thing happens with flowers. When you make a fresh cut on the bottom of that stem, it's open, it's an open wound, and it will drink water through that opening. But if you leave it out in the air, it starts to seal off, and then the water doesn't go up the stem very fast. So you want to make sure you give it a fresh cut. Some people say at an angle, that gives it a little bit more surface area, so it might be better. I found either way really works. Just important to give it a cut. Sometimes people will say to cut underwater. Make sure you're doing an underwater cut.
Who would know?
That way there's no time for the air to seal the stem. You know, it's being cut underwater. I don't know, I really haven't found that big of a difference. The most important thing is to start with a really clean vase. And when I say clean vase, maybe you use a little drop of bleach. And when I say drop, if it smells bleachy or if it's burning your skin, it's too much bleach. Just a little drop of bleach and water and clean out the inside of that vase. Fill it up with nice fresh water. Sometimes city water is hard on certain stems. Certain flowers have a hard time with city water because of the chemicals. So you might use a filtered water or a bottled water. And then make sure that you keep that water clean. And you can keep that water clean with either those little flower food packets that you get from your local florist, or you can keep it clean just by adding a little, again, drop of bleach into the water to cut the bacteria. A fun fact, inside that little flower food packet, really what's in there is a bactericide like bleach and sugar. Sugar helps feed the bloom and helps the bloom open more. That's why the old wives' tale, you could add a little bit of 7-Up to your water. That simple sugar will help feed the flower. Unfortunately, 7-Up doesn't have bleach in it, so you'd also have to add a little bit of bactericide to cut the skim in the water, the bacteria in the water.
So if I have leftover 7-Up, I can easily just put a little bit in it,
Yep.
hope that the flowers will last maybe a bit longer.
Put a little drop in there, and it'll help your flowers bloom. Not last, bloom open.
Okay.
The bleach will help them last. The sugar helps them bloom. That's
Never would I have known.
Yeah. So sometimes if you have things that are really tight, you can add just a little bit of 7-Up or a little sugar and help them bloom open a little bit more.
Well, that's a good tip for you. Any other tips as
keep your water
navigate it?
really clean. Don't let your water get cloudy or foggy. Just keep your water clean. And a lot of times I'll be sitting there enjoying my flowers, and then I'll look over the next day and they'll be down, and I'll look at the vase and go, oh, I should have put water in there. So make sure that you keep the water nice and full.
Good tips for people to know, whether it's, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. It's a great gift to give. I love getting flowers myself, so always good to know. But what I never knew is the behind-the-scenes efforts it takes to get from maybe overseas right here to the community. So tell me about your process.
You know, We don't grow a lot of flowers in the United States anymore. I mean, there's still growers, but relatively small compared to other areas. Some of that is climate, and some of that is just the amount of work that goes into, producing flowers. We get a lot of product from South America. They have, better climate, a little bit better, longer period of warm days is really important, and better labor source as far as, tending and caring for flowers. A lot of times those flowers are grown South America and shipped directly to Miami. In Miami, they go through a customs process where they obviously check all the boxes to make sure that they're just flowers in there. They get graded and they get stamped, and then from there, local trucks will bring them out throughout the United States to different areas. So any of the product that we're getting out of Miami is coming from there. There's a lot of product that comes out of Holland, and that stuff is generally flown directly to the Twin Cities area and then trucked to a local wholesaler. And there are flowers that come from as far as Africa, a lot of product we get from Africa, different proteas and things like that. Or Israel is growing a lot of great product right now. Gerbera daisies that everybody loves, those big bright colored daisies. So there's lots of opportunities to get flowers from throughout the world. And of course, during our summer season, we do get a lot of stuff from our local growers. There are some great local growers in this area that bring us all the garden favorites that we love, like lilacs and zinnias and dahlias and all those things that are just garden favorites.
And even so, it takes a lot of people to get it from growing it to here in the United States. You would say maybe about 30 people it touches before it gets to the consumer?
Definitely, yeah. About 30 people are handling those flowers before it gets to your house. So if you think about all the people that are growing the flowers, packing the flowers, shipping the flowers, flying the flowers to Miami, checking the flowers, grading the flowers, boxing the flowers, loading them onto trucks, driving them here, receiving them at local wholesale, and then having them be cared, bucketed, boxed, shipped directly to your local florist. And then you have people processing all those flowers again and designing them for you, delivering them to your house. Definitely 30 to 35 people have touched every single stem.
There's a lot of people that it takes to get into this industry, and it's so fascinating, to say the least. But also within the industry, there's just so much more to it that many people may not know. Even so, the flowers, they don't all grow at one time of the year. There's different seasons for them. So how do you preserve your flowers so then they make sure that, or do you use different types at different times of the year?
Yeah, well, there are some standard product that is available year-round. We call those kind of like the bread and butter of the flower industry. Things like chrysanthemums, these daisy mums are always available. Roses and spray roses are always available. Some of our things have very definite seasons. Peonies, for example, everybody loves a beautiful peony in the springtime, but really those are spring flowers and they're less available in the fall and winter months. There are some people that will dedicate part of their production area to growing those off-season flowers so that they can control the climate and the soil and things like that. But when you start thinking about greenhouse space and any type of heating or cooling system, soil control, all those things get expensive. And peonies, even though they could be produced in a greenhouse off-season, are generally not done because they're not seen as, that feasible to be able to do. So, but peonies are generally a spring flower. Dahlias we always see in the fall. Usually by Thanksgiving, dahlias are kind of wrapping up. Tulips are really a spring flower. They usually start that cut right in January. Dutch market, they have a little bit more coastal climate, so it's not such a cold freeze. So they're able to cut in January, but they're really done by the end of May. I always say once you start to see it in your yard, we're not selling it anymore because we've already cut all of ours, right?
Who would know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is just a lot of great information.
Yeah.
To someone who even is maybe growing their own flowers. Do you
Yeah.
do that yourself? Do you have any tips in that realm of the world?
You know, I'm not a big flower grower. A lot of my time is dedicated just to being in the store and dealing with cut flowers. But I sure hats off to all those people who are growing flowers, because there's a whole host of things that they can talk about to make your crop successful or not successful. And probably the biggest of all of that is the weather, which you have little or no control over. So, yeah.
There's the balance right there.
There's the balance, yeah.
Now, you have owned the store since the 1990s.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that lifelong journey here to the Hudson community.
Yeah, well, I'm the 5th owner of the flower shop. And like you said, I've been here since the 1990s. Some of the greatest parts of being in that store is just interaction with the people and the community and all the things that happen in Hudson, which I really enjoy being a member of this community. And, you know, I just enjoy the stories and the people that I've met, all the employees that have grown and gone on to have their own children and live their own lives in different careers, or maybe even in the floral career. I'm just so proud of the things that we do down at the store.
Over 20 years of your service to the floral industry, always appreciated. Well, thanks for coming on today. Anything else that you like to share?
No, I just think something to consider. The retail flower business is a great business. You get to go to work every day and deal with such beautiful product and smell all those wonderful fragrances. So for anybody that's looking to re-career or maybe dabble in a little bit of floral or retail business, it's a great business to be in. So I'd always encourage anybody. It's made a great life for me. So.
Brings a lot of people joy,
Brings a lot of people joy. Yep.
Whether it's you're making arrangements, touching that 30 people to get to someone's house, whether you're just watching them. I always find so much joy just getting flowers myself, smelling them. But I'll make sure to keep your tips in mind once I get some for Valentine's Day or Mother's Day in that realm. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
For sure. That was Shelli Erck. She is the owner of the Hudson Flower Shop, just a community of people just to take it on to your house. I learned so much, and I hope you did as well. A lot of floral arrangements right here. So thank you for tuning in to this segment on the Western Wisconsin Journal on Agriculture. Have a good day.